September 10th marks the peak of hurricane season, and if you're thinking this date is your indication that things are improving from here on out, that's not necessarily the case. The date September 10th has been decided on just because when you tally up the number of tropical storms and hurricanes cumulatively over decades in the Atlantic, this date just happens to be the one with the most. But that's only when you add them all up over a course of many years. It's not necessarily the busiest day in the Atlantic. You have all of September into the middle of October that can be incredibly busy. And that's the reason why we can't let our guard up. And if you take a look at recent years, I actually tallied up the number of named storms that were born before September 10th that became hurricanes. As you can see, a lot became hurricanes, but very few of those made it to major hurricane status early on in the season, compared to the storms that didn't even get a name until after the peak of hurricane season. We still had a lot of hurricanes after the peak, and a lot of those became major hurricanes. In fact, in 2019, take a look at this. We only had 2 hurricanes that developed before the peak of the season. Then you look at the ones that were born after the peak of hurricane season, we had 4. So we doubled that up. We had more major hurricanes. In fact, more major hurricanes developed after the peak of hurricane season in recent years than before, with the exception of 2018, which was even. And if you remember, in 2018, that was when Michael made landfall in the Florida Panhandle. It's the only Category 5 hurricane to ever make landfall in the Florida Panhandle on record, and it's also the 3rd strongest hurricane on record in U.S. mainland history. So it is absolutely important that we keep an eye on things, especially with how busy the tropics are right now. And we don't have a lot of activity to talk about as far as strong, well-developed systems. We have just a tropical storm, Paulette and Renee. They aren't very harmful at the moment, but there's so much to watch. We have this area in red. That National Hurricane Center has given a 90% chance of developing over the next 5 days, a 40% chance for the area above it, and then we have a low chance of development in the Gulf of Mexico over the next 5 days with 2 areas of interest. So whether these develop or not, it's expected that that area in red will develop and very likely will become a storm to watch in the Caribbean for the middle of next week. But the point is that these storms, when they get their name, it's very possible that they can strengthen quickly this time of the year. Water temperatures are very warm. Let's take a look at Paulette and Renee. These storms, they seem very close together, but they're actually almost about 900 miles apart. There could be some interaction between the two. We may see Paulette steer Renee or Renee steer Paulette. That's your Fujiwara effect. They're not expected to get close enough for that to be too impressive at the moment, but things are a little unpredictable when that happens. Luckily, these storms do have a lot of room to breathe. They're not near any land right now, but that could change for Paulette in the near future. So Paulette, very weak at the moment. It was really sheared apart this morning, but you can see some thunderstorms starting to develop as we head into the afternoon time. Still, this storm's not expected to really strengthen anytime soon. We'll have to wait until the weekend before it starts to get its act together again. And then next week, that's when it approaches Bermuda. But notice that turn in the path. The reason why is because of a big area of Canadian high pressure that's going to push in. So you can see that on the spaghetti models. Once we get into Tuesday, it pushes Paulette out to sea. So that's the current logic with Paulette. Since Renee's in the middle of the Atlantic, we're not expecting any interaction with land from this system, but it could become a hurricane before it weakens early next week. So you can see they're pretty close to each other, but not necessarily close enough to interact with each other. So absolutely still plenty to watch in the Atlantic. The next name on the list is Sally. Keep in mind, every single storm with an asterisk, 14 of them, are the earliest on record. So although we haven't had a lot of strong storms yet, with the exception of Laura, we have had a lot of record-breaking storms just for the fact that they've developed so early. A lot of seeds that haven't quite become trees just yet. I'm meteorologist Alex Calamia.